Well, staying with President Ramaphosa's response to the two-day debate, well, Cadre deployment, high unemployment figures and struggling SOEs, which is some of the issues that were raised by opposition parties. To talk about how the president performed, we're joined by political analysts, Dr. Sam Koma and Rebone Tau. Good evening to both of you, and thank you for your time tonight.
Good evening, Kathy. Thank you for having me.
Sure. The 2 days of this debate, when we look at the one thing that all the opposition parties seem to agree on, is the fact that cabinet has been inefficient and that it is ineffective. And yet today we have a president that came out in support of his cabinet, saying that he fully believes in them and in their ability to take the country forward. Rebone, how do you think that that is going to land, particularly with South Africans? I mean, is it a true and a fair, is it actually an honest reflection of the state of cabinet and where we are as a country?
I think I must start by saying good evening to you and good evening to the viewers at home and the fellow panelists. Now, let's go back to the SONA itself, where the president speaks about the July unrest report, where in the report it is clear that the cabinet must take responsibility of what happened in July, and he says that. Now, how do you continue to have confidence when even you admit, that what happened in July was because of the cabinet, and that's why the cabinet should take responsibility. Secondly, we go back to also the SONA. He appoints now Mr. Nkosi, he appoints Mr. Mavuso Msimang, and the question is, and which most people have been asking, why is it that the president's got so many committees, so many tax teams, and the reality of the matter is that what are the ministers of those various departments are doing, or those departments in terms of their mandate, so it's a bit confusing. How does he have confidence in his own cabinet when he still continues to appoint people, navigating the politics within his own cabinet by appointing individuals to serve and advance whatever that he seeks to advance? Because even the issue of the red tape, this is not something that was new that he said. Let's go back to the 2018 SONA. This is something that he said. So literally saying that the Minister of Small Business since 2018, even if there's been changes, but it's under the same government, the ANC-led government. That means they have failed to deal with the issue of the red tapes that he's repeating, and now he's appointing someone on the matter.
Dr. Koma, on this issue of a bloated presidency and creating what some have described as a parallel state, the president again came out in strong defense against those sentiments and said, in fact, this should be seen as a sign of how aligned his government is, because you have individuals who are working in the presidency to ensure that departments and the work that they're doing is falling in line with what the president wants to see. Again, is that a fair reflection and an honest reflection of the state of affairs?
Thanks, Kathy. Yes, in fact, the issue of establishing a strong presidency, it's a long-standing debate. In as far as I recall, in 1998, there was a presidential review commission which was appointed by the former late President Mandela, which recommended that there is a need to strengthen the work and the functioning of the presidency. And then it happened under the Mbeki presidency. We had a strengthened presidency having different coordination units. The most famous one was the PICAS, which is the Policy and Advisory Service, which was headed by Joel Nechitenze, and also having other advisory units and councils. Under the Zuma presidency, they then shifted away to creating a monitoring and evaluation ministry, which will then take over some of the functions which were located within the presidency. So I'm getting a sense that President Ramaphosa is intending to revert to that setup where he has a strong presidency comprising of capable, competent, experienced individuals who are able to play a clearinghouse role. So you realize that issues of red tape, will be issues that are cross-cutting, involving, for example, DTI, the Small Business Development Ministry, and other economic related ministries. So you need a coordinating unit located within the presidency, which its role is to ensure that these bottlenecks, these teething problems, administrative issues are resorted at that level. But in terms of implementation, you will still have the ministers assigned the role to implement some of these mandates and also functions.
It brings me to my next question, because the assumption here is that the reason why there are these bottlenecks is because the ministers are trying everything in their power to overcome these hurdles, but because of these structural challenges, it simply is impossible. Yet that is not the impression that one gets looking from the outside. In fact, you know, the picture sometimes is quite opposite, that you have ministers who are very relaxed when it comes to the implementation of some government policies. And the role that these individuals play, ultimately, the implementation rests with the department. And if these individuals that are heading the ministries are not on board, does it not leave the president with the same kind of challenges?
Yes, in fact, inadvertently, the president is admitting that, folks, the caliber that I have in my cabinet may not be up to scratch in terms of fulfilling some of my priorities, and also in terms of looking at my own medium and long-term vision. But he has to play a balancing act. He has delivered the last SONA ahead of the ANC elective conference that will be held this year in terms of electing a new leadership. Obviously, he's gearing himself for a second term, so he has to make sure that he rallies everyone within, especially his party and within the cabinet. But a counter argument that he can give is that, no, folks, last year I did reshuffle my cabinet. I can do this, the same this year, looking at the security cluster, for example, informed by the July unrest report, and effect changes in that cluster, and also other ministries where there seem to be challenges in terms of fast-tracking the very same priorities he outlined when he assumed the presidency in 2018.
Rebone, let me come to you and wrap it up with you on this issue of reshuffling his cabinet and that July, that report into the July unrest. The president, when asked about the tensions between the police minister and the national commissioner, says it's something that he is aware of, it's something that concerns him, and he's looking into it. I think people have expected more. I certainly would have expected more, because that report has been absolutely damning on the role of the police minister and the national commissioner.
I think, you know, we must also say, I must also say that there seems to be a problem, you know, between the police commissioner and the minister. It is not a new thing that we're seeing this relationship. Let's go back to the same Minister Pegicele, who was the police commissioner, who did not finish his term. We can go back to Ria Pierga, who did not finish her term. I think it was Pahlane, who was acting and later was removed. And now you have the commissioner of police. So there's not been any stability within the department, and it's been going on for years. And indeed, you know, it's worrying that that the president responds in the manner that is responding. And what is very interesting again is that while there's this restructure of the security cluster that must happen, we must remember that the two women, the one who was at defense, the one who was at SSA, they were both removed, and a man was left in his position as the minister of police. So it is a bit worrying when one wants to understand why is it that women were also removed but a man was kept, and police were very central on this issue of the July unrest.
Let's leave it there for tonight. Political analyst Dr. Sam Goma and Rebone Tau.